Electricity Minister, Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, says the appointment of the new Eskom CEO, that's Dan Marokane, is a major step towards ending load shedding. Marokane replaces Andre De Ruyter, who left that job back in February this year. Ramakgopa also announced that the Minerals and Resources Minister, Gwede Mantashe, will gazette the draft integrated resource plan for public comment soon. That plan, among others, will look into the timeframes around the decommissioning of older power stations. Let's unpack these developments for you now. Bring in Professor Sampson Mamphweli, who's the head of Energy Secretariat at the South African National Development Institute and joins us via our video link this morning. Prof, always great to have you on the platform. Thanks very much indeed for always making time. Let's begin with just unpacking the IRP if we can. I mean, part of what the minister said yesterday, that's Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, is that what this IRP also does is give us an update on the energy mix we should have in this country as we also predict the kind of demand that we're forecasting in South Africa. All of this, of course, with the attempt of ensuring that we're able to stave off load shedding. With that in mind, what kind of changes, if any, are you anticipating?
Good morning to you and the viewers. I look at it from the point of view of, having looked at the IRP 2019. That's one. Two, the President's Energy Action Plan. And then the third part is the fact that we are in an energy crisis. So the IRP should respond to the fact that we are in an energy crisis, and it should take into consideration the provisions of the Energy Action Plan, because the part of the models that were used to come up with the Energy Action Plan were used in the determination of the energy mix in the current IRP. So taking it from those documents, the IRP 2019 had assumed that the coal fleet will operate at above 70% energy availability factor. That has not happened. It had assumed a certain megawatts of new generation capacity that should have been in place. We are running behind in terms of that, partly because of the grid constraints and other constraints. So I assume that the current draft of the IRP will also take into consideration those. In terms of the energy mix, I expect that the IRP will have the nuclear part, it will have the renewables part, your solar and wind, and some kind of concentrated solar power. It will have some battery energy storage facilities. And it will, in my view, it should call for the life extension of some of the coal fleet, basically because we are running behind in terms of new generation capacity. And I'm taking that also from the President's Energy Action Plan that says we need to fix the current coal fleet and ensure that it operates optimally, and then bring in a new generation capacity quite rapidly, so that we can then close the gap between the demand and supply. The country has suffered quite a heavy knock due to load shedding, both from the financial point of view and as well as from the economic growth point of view. You might know that government is busy cutting costs and things like that, because SARS could not collect enough money from the businesses side of things, because some of the businesses have cut down on operations. The economy is losing more than 500 billion rand per year, and people are losing jobs. So the IRP needs to take all that into consideration and ensure that we've got security of energy supply, and then bring in new generation capacity and storage facilities, and then we can start to decommission some of the coal fleet once we have stable electricity supply. So those are some of the things that I'm looking forward to see in the IRP.
Yeah, it's interesting you speak about stability and security of energy supply, because part of what we heard from the National Nuclear Regulator is that for most of the next 2 years, only one unit is said to be operational at Koeberg, which we know is our only nuclear plant in this country, and I think on the continent, because of the maintenance program, essentially. Yesterday, the minister announced that Koeberg 5, for instance, is set to go offline, and that will be for the next couple of months. it sounds to me that we're still playing a lot of catch-up. And I wonder to what extent these kind of maintenance programs, which I think we all concede have to be done if we are to finally arrest load shedding, to what extent does that feature at all in this IRP? Or would that be a completely separate process, for lack of a better term?
So that's still part of the model, the IRP models, because the IRP models for adequacy. So it also looks at the maintenance program as well for all the assets, the electricity generation assets that we have in the country. And in terms of the maintenance of the Quebec Unit 2, that unit needs to be refurbished. So that it can be extended, the life can be extended for the next 20 years. And that has got to do with issues around safety, issues around the steam generators, because for Eskom to get a license to operate that unit going forward, they need to ensure that it's properly maintained, because it has basically reached its end of life. So once it reaches its end of life, they need to refurbish it, ensure that it's properly done, so that it can give us life extension. So coming back to the IRP will then also consider those kind of issues when it comes to the maintenance of the entire fleet, so that when we have some of this fleet down for maintenance, we still have adequate supply of electricity to provide for energy security.
Yeah. When it comes to the new CEO, we're being told that this is a major step towards crippling or ending the crippling power cuts. And we've heard this before, haven't we? With that in mind, it's a bit difficult to judge a man on a job he's yet to do. But I have to ask how confident you're feeling.
Yeah, so if you look at the candidates, they've selected the right candidate in my view, because this is someone who is not new at Eskom, and is someone who has acted in such a position at Hulett Kontongat. He comes with a lot of experience. He's an engineer. Most people cried foul around the fact that Andre De Ruyter was not an engineer. So here you've got an engineer who understands the engineering part of things as well. So this is not someone that people can just give information that he won't be able to interrogate down to unit level and understand it. So for me, and as well as the organization that I work for, which is Sanedi, we welcome that kind of an appointment. And we've been calling, you will recall, even through this platform, we've been calling for the appointment of the Eskom CEO, so that there can be stability within the organization. Yeah. When you've got somebody who is acting, it is difficult, because you don't necessarily have a proper stability within the organization. So that is very much necessary, and I agree with the minister when he says it will bring stability and it will assist us in the fight against load shedding.
So we've got Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, who's a civil engineer, as the electricity minister. We've got Dan Marokane as an engineer, now CEO of Eskom, and Mteto Nyati has stepped in as the board chairperson. Do we finally have the winning formula, Prof? Because the musical chairs, I'm sure you'll agree, have had many South Africans completely disillusioned about whether or not the issue is who is at the helm versus whether there's enough political will to address the structural issues at the utility to finally end this disaster.
Yeah, it's a combination of the two. It's the political will to address the problem, and who is at the helm, whether those people are capable of dealing with the problem. On the political will side of this, government has demonstrated, at the highest level, when the president, for the first time, went on a consultation process and came up with the establishment of NECOM, the Energy Crisis Committee, as well as appointing the minister who is directly responsible for the particular crisis, and giving that minister powers to be able to deal with the crisis. And if you look at what has happened, some powers were taken from Minister Mantashe, and also Minister Gwede has allowed Minister Ramakgopa to work closely and directly with Eskom almost on a daily basis, so to speak, to try and resolve the problem. So there is that political will. If you look at the appointments that have been made so far from the board to the CEO, those appointments also send a strong message that government is very much serious about dealing with load shedding. And if you listened to the briefing by Minister Ramakgopa, as you are referring to it, you can see that we're sitting in a much better position, from the briefing that he did yesterday in terms of the breakdowns. Using May as a reference point in terms of your reserve, your generation reserves in preparation for the Christmas break and things like that. The Kusile Unit 5, having been planned to come back to life before the end of December, the maintenance program, they've taken out close to 7,000 megawatts for maintenance. And if they are able to bring back some of those megawatts, we will be able to have days where we won't have load shedding during this Christmas break, depending on how the system in its totality responds, because we know we are dealing with a mechanical kind of system that has not been properly maintained in the past, where we can have breakdowns anytime at any power station. So the future looks bright. And I'm looking forward to see what the new IRP will contain. And I am also aware that Minister Mantashe will soon announce the procurement of new generation capacity, which will be close to about 17,000 megawatts. So in terms of planning for the future and trying to deal with the current situation, there is political will, and there are plans that government is following up in terms of implementation. They are implementing the Energy Action Plan as we speak as well.
All right, and up with Professor Sampson Mamphweli. Thanks very much indeed for speaking to us, and I appreciate that correction as well. It's Unit 2 at Koeberg that's going offline. Unit 5 is the one that's coming back online after being out for some maintenance. Professor Mamphweli, as always, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. He is the head of Energy Secretariat with the SA National Development Institute.